Start.
Welcome to the YUS Show. This is number 7 in a series sponsored or actually created by YULin Xu and also Yildiz Cruz. I teach at the University of San Francisco. And then also Steve Roddy, who's not here with us today, but he comes in occasionally. So we're very happy to welcome you for today's program, which will, and Yulin will say a few more words about that.
Welcome. Today we're going to have a very interesting topic. As we know that there are many controversial issues in our society, and especially the recent so many events remind us of controversial issues. So today we thought that it's important for us to introduce controversial issues, handling strategies, and then the solutions, potentially exploration. So Professor Cruz is going to give us a history talk on U.S. history of fighting poverty.
All right, yes. I've actually prepared a very brief PowerPoint, and let me do a screen share with you. Let's see if this is, I think so.
Yeah, doing well.
You can see here. Hopefully, Yulin can see this too.
Yes.
So, Fan Pin Kun de Zhanzheng in Chinese. So, the United States government in the 1960s actually began a program, a large-scale national program led by President Johnson. These are some of the main points I'd like to, I'll be very brief. But not many people really know about this, but the U.S. In the 1960s, it was found had maybe 20% of the population was considered poor, living in poverty. And so President Johnson began this initiative, which he called the War on Poverty, which in some ways was an expansion of FDR's efforts in the 1930s to expand things like Social Security and so on. Johnson created eventually, with legislation, about 40 different programs and offices and bureaucratic entities. The main one was this Office of Economic Opportunity, And this was the main headquarters for doing this. So the main ideas behind all of this were to improve education in poor areas and also to improve healthcare in these poor areas. So people would have a better opportunity, not that they had guaranteed jobs or that they would be guaranteed to become wealthy or to be lifted out of poverty, but the idea was to create this, as the Chinese say, a 机会, an opportunity to move forward in all of this. I went to Amazon and I realized there are actually quite a few books that have been written about the war on poverty. This is a recent book published in 2011, which is, well, 11 years ago already. But this is President Johnson here talking to presumably some poorer people, and then President Obama probably also talking to some poorer people. And so there are many different aspects to this war on poverty. I mean, what is considered poor? What are the best strategies for this? And so on and so forth. Unfortunately, in the 60s, also under Johnson began this war on Vietnam and Indochina as a whole, basically to contain China. And so after 1965, this initial hope to wage a war on poverty became a war on the Indo-Chinese people. It's unfortunate, but from a really good idea, Johnson got a really bad idea. Now, I think the main question here is, which is very controversial. Yulin spoke about controversial issues, and this is controversial. Was this program successful? Now, people on the left, people who are mostly Democrats or liberals or progressives, think that this really was a good program. It did not solve the problem of poverty. but it reduced it enough so that right now the level of poverty in America is about 10%. So it took maybe half of those poorer people, of course, over a long period of time, and reduced it. The conservatives, the Republicans and conservatives and neoliberals think that this was not a successful program because it was too fragmented and it created this culture of dependence, the culture of dependence where poor people expected money or expected a job or expected food. And so they didn't really try very hard. They just waited for something to fall from the sky. And so it created this culture of dependence. And so beginning in the 80s and 90s, the Republicans wanted what they called personal responsibility and the elimination of these kinds of programs. Now, ironically enough, or perfectly appropriately, it was President Trump a few years ago who eliminated this Office of Economic Opportunity that was created by Johnson in 1964. So it was only a few years ago. So for 60 years, this Office of Economic Opportunity was in place. But Trump eliminated it. So people are on their own. You must have your own personal responsibility. So these are some of the main points. We talked a little bit too in our last preparation about USF and its own emphasis on social justice. One of the things that USF has done since the year 2000 under Father Prevet, who was our president at that time, began to be our president, I think, in 2001, 2002, was an emphasis on social justice issues, bringing more awareness and knowledge of things like the war on poverty and inequality to our students and to combat it, to point out the ways in which it's been fought in the past. So those are my thoughts. America has had a war on poverty. It's been at least partially successful, if not entirely successful, but it got reduced. Its emphasis and effectiveness was reduced because of the war in Indochina, which Johnson also launched in 1965. So thank you very much for listening. I think Yulin has her own comments to make, and so I'll stop the share and we'll listen to Yulin.
Well, thank you. Professor Cruz shared at USF, we are really about to promote justice through education. So what we would like is we'd like to be open-minded and learn about different perspectives. So what I would like to share a little bit, I have some notes here as well, just few slides as well. Since I taught in business school, and many people know that in business, we have a word called a VUCA to describe volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous business environment. That is pretty much where we're at in many of the situations, not just business, but also socially, it's quite volatile. So the question is, how do we deal with that, right? Fortunately, in business world, there are some practical ways to deal with VUCA situation, including counter volatility with vision, meet uncertainty with understanding, react to complexity with clarity, and fight ambiguity with agility. Of course, there are many specific things that we can do. So we would really welcome all ideas how to move things forward. Another thing that I would like to share is Aspire norm. In the classroom, we promote Aspire. A stands for assume good reasons, acknowledge impact, growth mindset, and accept discomfort with open-mindedness. S means step back, step up, invite others in, and normalize silence when needed. P stands for participate with open mind, prioritize diverse voices. I use I statement and reflect on identities. R means respect to people, contributions, confidentiality, take risks to dissent. E, as Chuchar, means listen, empathy, and equity. So it's interesting to observe that we teach kids aspire norm. The question we should ask ourselves is, are we practicing that as adults? And,
Indeed.
and if not, then should we learn from our kids on some of things that are important? So anyway, with that, I'd like to just share 4 people very quickly. The first is Helen Keller. When I was a kid in China, one of the English textbook that we need to read is about Helen Keller. She's so inspiring to many Chinese kids. I'm sure every Chinese kid would know the story of Helen Keller. She's so inspiring. Despite her challenges, she kept fighting, and she's really, really good inspiration. So I think that given the current VUCA situation, given the fact that, you know, some of us don't even practice Aspire, maybe we can all learn, think about Helen Keller, how her story can inspire us all. Another really very good program in terms of fighting poverty is America's course on poverty by Stanford. That's amazing, amazing research-based strategies. And another thing that I would like to highly recommend is Professor Mark Granovator, whose the strengths of weak ties is famous, has impacted so many people. So in the friendship area, if we think, for example, China as our remote friends, with weak ties that we have with China, the strengths from this weak tie will be amazing. Not only we can learn so much from how China's success fighting poverty, eliminated poverty as of 2 years ago, after so many years courageous fighting, we in the US can learn a lot from that as well. And last but not least is Desmond Tutu. He said, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. So with that in mind, I actually start to teach a class called Controversial Issues Handling Strategies for Business Success. So I personally hope to make a little bit of contribution in promote controversial issues handling strategies in a professional way so that we can all learn and practice how do we survive and thrive well. So with that, I think that we hope that we would invite everybody to reach to us and collaborate, and together we will work toward a better tomorrow.
Great. Well, wonderful to hear all of these wonderful ideas. So thank you for sharing. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, I would very much like to go on the website there at Stanford and see what their strategies are for reducing poverty. I'm sure they have developed quite a few. So it sounds like a wonderful center.
Yeah, it is. So we're just very fortunate that we have so many good resources around, so many good people around. So I'm quite optimistic. I know that we have a lot of things to do, not only research work, but also actually involving with social issues. So I sincerely hope that our work, this is supposed to be a comedy, we're supposed to bring laughter.
Yes. Well, just the very fact we're dealing with it is pretty bold, pretty bold. So there must be some. I don't know if there are any jokes about poverty. It's not. It's kind of not a funny topic. I mean, I don't know quite what you can say that's funny about poverty. It's.
You know, my university, Science University, I know that how they do it. China match. China has a map of like all the poverty areas. Even has a database about the specific individuals who need help with. The match the city to the area that need help with. That is amazing. That is amazing. So we have so many successful companies here. So maybe we can think about something similar as well. Our technology is so advanced. I'm sure that we don't lack the technology infrastructure to do something similar to China, have the list of people and also have the organizations who are willing or even volunteers, right? So China is a volunteer basis. So we can learn so much from each other. China has sent so many students to come to the US to learn because Chinese people are trained to be humble. That's the tradition, and to learn. And I think that we can actually learn from each other. So with that, we'll see you next month.
Yes. We'll say goodbye. Bye-bye.